Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about why technology consulting isn't for you. So my channel preaches on the career in technology consulting because I think it's an amazing career for a lot of people to start, but when does it actually not make sense for you to be in technology consulting? And I'm going to go specifically into technology consulting, not consulting. So there's so many videos and content out there on why consulting isn't for you, and I can go on about it in terms of like travel or instability and fluctuations or anything like that. So there's just so many things out there. So I'm going to be talking about specifically in technology consulting, and this could really help you if you're maybe interested in consulting and you just don't know what. So you're probably deciding between tech and something else, or you're trying to just see if like technology consulting is for you. I've covered a lot of it briefly in my why you should be a technology consultant video over here, so definitely check that out as well in terms of the pros and cons. Again, those could actually be on just consulting. Now, I don't think a lot of them are actually very specific to technology consulting, but today I'm going to be specifically talking about those that are specific to technology consulting, and I only really have three because I'm trying to think out loud here and I can't really think of anything. So the first off is technology is a very dynamic field, so because of that, you'll constantly need to learn something new and recertify, retrain. There's a lot more certifications and training in technology than any other consulting out there, in my opinion, because each time there's like a new update in a software, you need to recertify, or that you want to learn a new technology, you need to get a recertification. And also you need to learn a lot of new things too, because as technology goes on, and it could be happening on a really fast pace, like whatever you knew 6 months ago could be completely out the door, completely different with a whole new process or even a whole new technology. So that's something to keep in mind, and you want to always be on your toes and relearn and retrain, because if that's the case, like let's say for example cloud is end up being replaced by something else, then if you're in the cloud sphere, you want to actually do something else and just kind of diversify your knowledge. So that way you do have opportunities out there outside of cloud. So if there is new technology that kind of all of a sudden clients don't want cloud, they want that new thing, then you may actually be out of a job at one point, because they're not going to go to consulting firms to do a cloud project. They're going to go to a consulting firm for another project. So if you try to upskill and try to learn those new skills constantly, you'll always be top on your game. So if you don't want to have a job where you're constantly learning on your feet in terms of the actual experience, but you also need to learn in terms of the actual certifications and training, it may not be for you. And one thing to keep in mind though is that you don't actually need a master's degree in technology consulting. I know with management consulting, they highly recommend a master's degree just because like a lot of people have it, but in technology consulting, what really matters is actually your experience and your skills. So when you upskill, you're all of a sudden like you're already good. You just need to have the experience to really help out in terms of the consulting and your background for, like, let's say for example, best practices of what this client should be doing, and you can only really do that through experience. So definitely, if you don't want to constantly be doing exams and certifications, then technology consulting may not be for you. However, a caveat behind that is that there's so many different types of technology consulting that if you do want to do something, let's say tech strategy, that's going to be a little bit different. But again, you do need to learn new technology anyways to be able to recommend a new technology as a strategy. But for example, software implementations or third-party IT projects, there's so many out there, you still need certifications. Like even for doing IT, that's like CompTIA. The other thing I want to mention specifically when it comes to technology consulting is that it may not be for everyone because of your end goal. So if, for example, you want to do something in technology, but if you want to do something specific to technology consulting, then that's great, but you have to also think about your end goal as well, because if it's specific to, let's say for example, venture capital, it could be a little bit harder to actually maneuver your way there, because let's say for example you want to do venture capital, they would typically look for management consultants or people who work in technology companies. But technology consulting, because it's not necessarily using that many transferable skills in terms of venture capital, then they may look into that and it could be a little bit harder for you to get in. However, I still think technology consulting is an amazing field because you're learning technology and plus all of the other skills that management consulting would be using, which a lot of people pride in. But in my opinion, when it comes to like let's say for example venture capital or finance or anything like that could be harder to really pivot your way in. So that's like one other thing you need to keep in mind is your exit opportunities. Definitely check out my video over here in terms of all the exit opportunities you may have available to you in technology consulting and see if it lines up, because there's a lot of roles out there where it's a little bit harder to kind of move your way away from technology or consulting and then into something else. So that's something to keep in mind of in terms of your exit opportunities and your end goal. So definitely look into it. I would actually recommend you to look into someone that's actually on the particular career path you want, and find someone who had technology consulting in their background and see how they did it and what were the issues that they were facing, because that's truly the way to really see, is it really good for you? Because it's actually very easy for people to become consultants because of the kind of background you need. Is a lot of soft skills and kind of thinking on your feet and a lot of transferable skills. However, you're trying to leave consulting, specifically tech consulting, you may have already pigeonholed yourself into technology, and if you're trying to go to like maybe strategy consulting, you may need to go to management consulting before strategy consulting, because making that jump could be a little bit hard. So definitely talk to other people that you know that are in your current career path that could be doing technology consulting, or that you want to talk to someone in that particular path, let's say in HR, to see how do they feel about technology consultants. That way you can better prepare your career. The one last thing I want to say in terms of why technology consulting may not be for you is the actual work itself. So sure, we are consultants, but at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy technology, if you don't enjoy coding, there's still some roles out there where you don't actually need to code, but that's still something you need to keep in mind, and is that there are roles out there where you have to code. So I would basically, like, if you don't like technology and you're kind of doing that as a way in, you may not enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, you won't do well in it. And if you don't do well in it, you may not last that long. And plus, you may not even have really a good experience on your resume to go to your next job. So I would highly recommend you to really evaluate yourself. Why do you want to do consulting? Why do you want to do technology consulting? Because if that's the case, you may want to learn about, do I really want to do something technical? Do I want to do something technology when I really probably want to do something in fashion or sales or start my own company, like all those kind of things. On the note, in terms of starting your own company, you also want to make sure to check your firm's actual policies, because I know some firms actually are very, very strict on this. So that's something you want to definitely keep in mind, because a lot of people in technology consulting, they're probably either having like a side hustle in technology, or they want to do something else or something like that. And most people in consulting are like that. So that's something to keep in mind, and because some firms are very forgiving, some firms are not. And some firms just don't care as long as there's no conflict of interest. But if you really want to do something like that, just keep in mind. And something that I've realized too is that technology consulting does have a lot more independent consultants, and there's so many opportunities for you to really do that. I know so many people who have actually left Accenture to do their own independent work. So they're like literally just one consultant going to projects rather than being on a firm going to projects. So that's something to keep in mind of. I think there's a lot of flexibility in terms of being an entrepreneur on that perspective. But if you want to do maybe some like tech work on the side, it probably isn't available or possible. So you have to definitely look into your company and firm's policies before you even try to apply. Because if that is your goal and you're there and you're like, well, now all of a sudden you can't do it, you either may be terminated because of conflict of interest or issues like that, or you'll leave yourself. So you really want to make sure that you have a proper career, so that way you can either use it as a stepping stone to go somewhere else, or just stay in technology consulting to whenever you want to leave. So that's all I really have in terms of like why technology consulting may not be for you. There's still so many out there, but really all I can think about are very specific to consulting. So I may do a specific video on consulting, but if you really want nitty gritty, definitely check the cons of technology consulting or consulting in general. That's the video where I talk about what is technology consulting, why do people use technology consultants, the pros and cons. And the cons, if you really want to try to see, like, check off to see everything is fine with you before you proceed, definitely check out this video. Thank you guys so much, and let me know if you learned anything from this. I think a lot of it is mostly the one that I did not realize is actually this certification and retraining part. It's obvious that you have to constantly relearn because of the fact that you get different clients and whatnot. But in terms of the actual software or anything like that, that could be a little bit different. And you also want to check on the firm too, because for example, firms like Accenture, they focus on more on software implementations, digital transformations. So you're working within a software. But if you're thinking maybe like, for example, product management or development, this is probably not for you. But Some firms do have innovation hubs too, so also look at that. But that isn't really technology consulting. That's just working in a technology company. So that's something to reevaluate in terms of what your goals are and does it align with technology consulting, because even though I love technology consulting, it's definitely not for everyone. So really look into that, because you don't want to make any regrets in terms of like, oh, I wish I did this, but I think knowledge is power, so at least you can make an informed decision. Thank you guys so much and see you guys next time. Bye.